Welcome to Around Kitsap. This is the program on BCAT where we delve into topics that are important county-wide. I'd like to invite and I'd like to welcome to our show today Larry Iyer, Executive Director of Kitsap Community Resources, and Mike Botkin. Mike is Project Director for Kitsap Community Resources. Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Larry has a very in-depth past with Kitsap Community Resources, probably stellar among everybody else at the organization. Larry, give us a little history of, we're going to call it KCR, although it's Kitsap Community Resources. Give us some history of Kitsap Community Resources.
Mm-hmm. We are a local community action agency. We're a private nonprofit organization. We began about 40 years ago here in Kitsap County, and we've been involved in many of the social needs programs and services and throughout the years. So we have as our mission to provide hope and opportunity for low-income Kitsap County residents with resources that provide self-sufficiency or promote self-sufficiency. Mm-hmm. So most of the services that I'll talk about lead toward that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we talk about our purpose, and our purpose statement is that we identify unmet needs of low-income people throughout the county and work with private and public partners to address those needs. So over the years, for example, we've worked to help create food banks and community health centers and legal services programs, senior citizen programs, housing programs, homeless shelters in our community.
Larry, you called it a community action program. Was that not the name of KCR years and years ago? Was it Kitsap Community
Action Program? Yeah, right.
KCAP.
For many years.
Yeah.
And we're still one of 30 in Washington State that serve our different areas. Our service area is Kitsap County, all of Kitsap County.
All of Kitsap County.
Right.
Helping people getting out of poverty, find homes, work on their credit, help educate children, help feed families, on and on and on.
That's right. So, for example, we have what we call our Early Learning and Family Services Division. So we operate Head Start child development programs for young children from low-income families and their families. We operate the Women, Infant, Children Nutrition Program for pregnant women, infants, and children. We have parenting education classes that we provide in that area. Another area that we do a lot of work in is housing and energy assistance. So there we have services where we provide housing for low-income families, lots of work in homeless areas and shelters and that type of thing. We provide energy assistance for some 2,500 families during the course of the year. It's utility help there. We also do quite a bit of work with veterans for emergency work assistance for veterans, with helping them get stay in a home or find a home or pay their energy bill. We also do quite a bit of work with employment and training, and so we help people to set their career goals, to understand what their options to get into vocational school or to colleges, and place them into employment. And we do that through the workforce development system.
Right. Is AmeriCorps housed with KCR, Larry?
It is, in fact. AmeriCorps is another major program that we have.
And it's still being funded. Is it still in the federal?
Yes, that's right.
realm?
We have 40 full-time AmeriCorps participants.
That's an awesome program.
They give a year of their life to community service, and we support them through that time, and they can earn a college scholarship by participating. So they've been
It's a great program.
very important to our community, not only our agency, but other
Many agencies.
nonprofits and schools in the area.
One of the unique characteristics of the Community Action Program and this agency is governed in this way is the Board of Directors. It's a large Board of Directors, and it's made up of 3 component parts. You have 1/3 public elected officials or the representatives, and you got 1/3 community leaders, business activists, and then the final third is made up of consumers. People that utilize our services are also represented on the board.
And I bet, or could it be true, that some of those consumers, after they become consumers, could still be on the board as representing an organization?
We have quite a few past consumers, and as you know, they're good board members because they've gone through, they've had success through the process and can show others how to do it. So we really welcome them. Yeah, it's about a 30-member board, and it's really
that's
diverse people from throughout the county and different areas of discipline.
But
Excellent.
they're very capable, and they all bring different skills and experiences. It's good to work with them.
Yeah. You have a beautiful facility on the corner of 8th and Warren, correct? And it's relatively new, built with lots of foundation money, I'm sure, and of course, capital campaign. Before that, you were on Elizabeth Street Park.
We were actually
You were all over the place.
4 old rental buildings,
Exactly.
each with their challenges and
Right.
issues. So it was a big deal for us to put together this all into one facility. But here, as you said, here we are 4 or 5 years later, and it has been wonderful. The design has allowed us to do so much more than we were able to do in the past, because that one's a green building, a LEED certified building. We have been able to save some 30% on our utility bills, and we've just been able to combine services so much better from that location.
In Bremerton, we operate out of 2 principal facilities now. One is 845 8th. That's the new building that you're talking about. The other is the old Smith Elementary School on 1201 Park.
Right. Okay.
That's
You
the
still
family-
do have a presence.
We have
there.
a presence there. That's where our Head Start and early learning programs are. That's the administration, and there are some classrooms there. There are also the community service activities, the housing and homeless service activities, the weatherization take place at 1201 Park. But it's all consolidated in those 2 facilities. There is a facility that in Silverdale, it's on Anderson Hill Road. It's owned by Martha and Mary Lutheran Services, but we have a WIC clinic there in Silverdale as well.
Go
I
ahead.
might just add that we essentially own the 2 buildings in Bremerton, and that ownership has allowed us then to invest in those facilities and make them much better than we ever could have otherwise, and is saving us operational dollars over time. So it's both from a point of view of livability, sense of professionalism, and in cost savings. It's really been worthwhile for us to have purchased those buildings, and particularly the newer one, because then we were able to design it as we needed for the services
Exactly how
that
you
are
wanted
there.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One of the things that we found in providing services to low-income people, low-income families, mothers and children and everything, is to make sure that you've got a decent, professional, respectful facility in which to provide the services. Because oftentimes what you're dealing with are people that need to aspire and need to develop self-esteem, self-respect, and if they're not being treated in a professional, respectful manner, because the facilities are a little downtrodden, then you're not, it's not helping anybody.
It makes a big difference.
And it has made a big difference that we have the new building in Bremerton, and that we've done so much over the years to upgrade and modernize the 1201 Park facility.
That's great.
That brings one other thing I'd like to emphasize, is that as in our mission statement, we're always looking at building this self-sufficiency in the sense of people being able to support their families. And so we often talk about meeting people when they're in crisis, first to help them stabilize, because that's really important, but not just to leave them there, not just to provide them shelter or to get them some food for now, but we want to keep helping them to see a future where they can better support themselves and their families. And so that's kind of the purpose in everything that we do. We're always looking to that next step.
And there's a huge team at KCR that helps folks keep aspiring. It's not one person helping an individual or family learning to be a little more financially prepared. It's also helping with education and helping children getting into education, preschoolers getting into Head Start, and helping them with food. It's wrapping arms around families and really helping them be successful in every aspect. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, it's just, you hit on something that's really important, and something that we really work on very hard is to integrate all the services. And so if somebody comes in for perhaps the Head Start program, they're made aware of the WIC and what WIC has to offer in terms of family nutrition. If we find that there's a potential homeless situation that requires child care, there's a program that can help out there. But all of our family development specialists, sometimes called caseworkers, but we refer to them as FDS, Family Development Specialists, know the various services that can be provided, and they work with the family and offer and assist family in whatever they need to do.
So one other thought. You know, we talk about KCR, but we see ourselves as part of the community of providers here.
Absolutely.
So we have many different formal and informal relationships with other agencies. We don't try to do mental health, for example.
Exactly.
Or at one time, we were involved in the initial days of the community health centers, but we could see that this was a much bigger need and operation, with doctors, dentists, and so forth. And so we work to help set that up now as an independent organization, and we see them as a community partner of ours. So
you have a lot of services, but not everything.
Yeah, well, that's right. And so we always work in partnership with the local food banks, many faith-based organizations in our community. And there's a role that we can play there that I think helps them in their work, and they certainly help us in ours.
Big team. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear about the new Kitsap Community Resources Project in South Kitsap. Very interesting and very needed in that part of our community. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Around Kitsap. I'm with Larry Iyer and Mike Bodkin with Kitsap Community Resources. We spent our first segment talking about Kitsap Community Resources and the numerous services they offer to our citizens in Kitsap County. Just off camera, Larry and Mike shared with me that there are 18,000 clients that KCR serves in Kitsap County. A third, or a little more than a third, 6,000 to 7,000 of those clients live in the South Kitsap community. KCR has had an office, a satellite facility on Bay Street for about 10 years, and that place is hopping busy. So KCR is building a facility on the corner of Jackson and Lund?
Just north of the corner of Jackson and Lund. Just Mariners Glen, the apartment complex down there, is on the north side of the parcel of property and on the east side. We're just kind of tucked in there behind the AM/PM Mini Mart that's there on the corner.
Great.
It's across the street from the South Kitsap Jackson Park.
So the project is big. It's going to be a satellite per se, a satellite KCR office offering all the services you do in Bremerton. Everybody going to be there? I see on my paper the Literacy Council is going to have a presence there.
Yeah. So what we have now down there is we have a full-time women, infant, children clinic. We have a full-time employment and training program. We're actually a WorkSource affiliate in that system. And then we have the GED and ESL services that the Literacy Council, now called CASE.
Let's see if we can get it right.
Yeah,
now.
oh, they have a new
Kitsap
name.
Adult Center for Education, CASE.
CASE,
Yes.
Kitsap Adult Center for Education, sorry.
Formerly the Literacy Council.
Formerly Literacy
Right.
Council.
And so they have GED classes and the ESL there. And then in addition, the health district has public health nurses
Nice.
there at that location.
And this is on Bay Street
Yeah.
currently.
This is currently on Bay Street.
And then we send staff from Bremerton as needed, typically one day a week, in services for like veterans and housing,
Great.
energy assistance, weatherization down there.
Great.
So yes, they really do have the full range of services, although there's not staff there every day for all the
For all of them.
programs.
The current facility is not really designed for what we try to do down there. It's not really designed for.
Kind of bulging at the seams, is it?
Well, it's an old grocery store, a 1950s.
Oh, yes.
I think maybe at one time, if people can remember, it might have been an IGA store down there
Yes,
on Bay
yes.
Street, next to the Ford dealership. And it has a storefront presence, but it's very small and very limited. Doesn't have any windows. You walk into it, and once you get past the windows out in the front, it's pretty much cave-like on the inside. We've done well in that facility for the last 10 years, but there are just certain limitations there. We're a little bit restricted on parking. We're a little bit restricted on the wiring and the power and computers and things like ventilation.
Some infrastructure that's
Yeah.
old.
Yep.
And we had volunteers that designed the inside, or not designed, but built the inside early on, and so it's not the ideal layout.
But it's worked.
And what we found in that experience of building the Bremerton building, where it was designed specifically for the kind of work that we do, that it really enhanced it for everybody. The staff, the clients, we were just so much more successful.
Great.
And we took that as the model and saw the opportunity, and were successful in getting some large grants to get started on the project.
Good.
That we saw the opportunity to build a new facility there on this location. The parcel of property that we were able to purchase, and the funding for the purchase of that property came from Kitsap County Community Development Block Grant Program.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a very
nice.
They took the leadership role in getting us started on this. And
And how long ago was that, Mike, that you got the
man, it
block
was at
grant?
least 2 years ago.
Great.
Yeah, that was
Great.
the initial startup money to purchase the property. It's 2.2 acres
Great.
in an ideal location that's centrally located for people that live in Port Orchard and South Kitsap.
Excellent.
And the other thing that now that we've actually begun construction on the site is it's a fantastic site for building because it infiltrates water so well.
Great.
And we are building, again, a low-impact development green building there on this facility, on this parcel of property. And the son of a gun just perks. It just perks so well. It's not going to put any additional load on infrastructure for
Great.
stormwater drainage or anything else like that.
Great.
And it was flat, and it's got perimeter trees. And so it's like having this ideal situation where you can build something that'll just, it'll just be like a little pocket community, if you will.
Nice.
It'll have the community service center on the west side of the property facing Jackson, closest to Jackson. But on the east side of the property, there's sufficient space for us to have a number, we're looking at it right now at 8 units of affordable housing to put in that space on the east side of the property. It's one of the things that we wanted to accomplish down there, not only the community center, but to replace the 8 units of housing that we lost. We used to have a relationship with the Consolidated Housing Authority in which we leased a building from them on Lippert. And that building is no longer available to us, and so we, over the years, have been trying to replace that housing.
Great.
And that was one of the objectives of this project. And to be able to put the synergy that you have of putting the housing along with the community center is twofold. You have the ability for the tenants in the housing and the affordable housing to be conveniently serviced by a community center that's right next door. It's almost like supportive housing in some sense, that you've got your community service center, their service delivery area, co-located. It's right there.
Right there.
But on the other side of it, because you've got staff and you've got a full-time presence on the property, you've got supervision, management, and operation of the housing units. So it works really well.
Works great. Talk to us a little bit about the foundations that you have received. Let's hear about those. Who wants to mention those?
Well, let's just kind of go into the funding picture in general.
Great.
On the community center, we're looking at this project in two phases. The first phase is to do the site development and build the community center and the parking facility for that. And then the second phase, as we're able to manage the funding, which we don't have all the components of the funding yet to build the housing. When we get that all in place, we'll be able to go into phase 2 and build the housing. We've got the initial grants from the county, from CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Program. It gave us initial funding to purchase the property, hire an architect and do the design, get us to permits, and begin site development. And we've accomplished most of that. We had a proposal to the state legislature this year in the capital budget. It's a program called Building Communities Fund. And we got a large grant from the capital budget of the state legislature. And that was also a very important component of the funding for the community center. So we have those two elements.
And that funding was secured.
Yeah, that funding is committed and secured. The third element of that is, and there's 4 elements. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fourth element is the private, and that's where I'm going with this. The third element that was very important to this is the WIC program. State of Washington Office of WIC through USDA funding. Because of the importance and the value to the community of the WIC program, came up with construction funding. They saw that their presence in our new building would be about 25%. So they agreed to and have committed 25% of the funding for that.
That's great.
So we have in excess of about 75% of the funding for the community center, phase 1, already committed, and that gave us the ability to move forward with the construction of the community center. The fourth element of that is the private side. And that's an additional $500,000 to $600,000 to $700,000 that is built of foundation grants and local fundraising. Now,
He's got it all. He's got it all handled, doesn't he? He's
Yeah, you
got
wanna
it
take it
all
from here, Larry?
itemized. That's great. So really, the next phase is getting public involved.
Well, let me give you a little bit of more information about the grants, because I do want to acknowledge that we've had partnerships with private grant-making organizations in this region for a number of years. The Medina Foundation came in early with a large contribution. They took the initiative, and they were the first in as a private foundation.
Is Medina a Kitsap County foundation, or where are they? Are Tacoma, Seattle?
Their offices are located in Seattle.
They are huge.
Yeah.
They have a big impact.
Yeah, they do.
And I think the origination of the foundation money was from timber.
Oh, interesting.
The Ben Bicini Foundation, again,
They're Tacoma.
definitely Tacoma and timber related. The Ben Bicini Foundation is involved in this project. The Norcliffe Foundation. Our friends at the Boeing Company. But it's the Boeing employees, community funded of Puget Sound, that have provided the funding for the elevator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's interesting. So now let's talk about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and specifically their Family Interest Program.
Right.
They have challenged Kitsap Community Resources we have $200,000, not we, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Family Interest Program, says we will give you $200,000 once you raise $115,000.
That's correct.
So here's $315,000 for you. So where are we at with that? Are we just starting to make the ask and bring folks around? And who are, let's talk about your committee that you've organized. Let's start there.
Well, we need to get these big pieces in place first. And so we feel good about our overall position in this. So now's the time to address this. We've just begun our putting together an advisory committee. We've got some, I think, some real important, influential folks on our committee, and they will assist us in doing that fundraising. But we're still pretty early in that process. We have a lead gift of $25,000 toward it, and that is, of course, always very important, and from a private individual. And
I think
Very
we've
nice.
identified about another $10,000.
yeah,
Of the $115,000, we've got about 35 of it identified. We've got a ways to go, but we're very confident. I mean,
Exactly.
this community has supported this organization over the years, and we wouldn't have accepted this challenge if we didn't.
If
think
you
we could
didn't
make
know
it.
you could do it. We're kind of running out of time.
Oh, but we're
already.
having so much fun.
yeah.
Kitsap Community Resources does a tremendous amount of work for our Kitsap community. 18,000 clients are served by this organization. 6,000 to 7,000 of them are in the South Kitsap area. If you want more information on Kitsap Community Resources, specifically on this project in South Kitsap, the website is very simple, www.kcr.org. Please check it out. If you need information, you can reach Mike through the website or Larry. Numerous folks can give you information. And I'm sure if you live in South Kitsap, travel through that area, you will see the construction happening on near the corner of Jackson and Lund.
We have the first floor framed, and we're making progress. We hope to have the roof on in December, before
Awesome.
it rains too hard.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your work in our community and leading this challenge, Mike. I know it's good work, it's hard work, and got to stay right on task. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing this. And thanks for joining us around Kitsap. We'll see you next time.